Charles, who is in Maine. Charles, can you hear me?
Yes.
You're on with Claire and Janet and Mandisa. What is your question?
Oh, thank you, ladies. Excellent. Pleasure
Hi,
to be
Charles.
Here. Well, not so much a question right now. I just told that we're talking about indoctrination and the youth through many different forms of and backgrounds of information. One being religion, absolutely, in particular. However, there's definitely a problem in the educational system where that is also an indoctrination system.
Yep.
Me, myself, becoming a father recently, I've noticed through my past how much more intelligent I became after high school and not even really applying myself to a formal college of any circumstance whatsoever. Here's the problem with science is that we're not using our observational science. We're not applying that to science as we should be. If I could direct the attention of your listeners to J:_Media1, that's a page on YouTube. There's observational science there that any child could see that there is no curvature of the Earth, seeing as it's an infrared and we can get past the haze of clouds, and air pollution.
Yeah.
So the problem is that children are being indoctrinated on a daily through all forms of things. And I'm not saying God is there, but I'm also not discrediting
Charles,
the thought that God may be there.
Can I interrupt you for just a moment?
Absolutely.
All righty. I really appreciate you calling. And
you're going to cut me off because you know that I'm speaking the truth, and your listeners
no, because you're not asking
some of your listeners.
You're not asking a question about parenting.
Okay, so it is parenting and indoctrination. I was told when I called, how do you feel about indoctrination in children?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, we can talk about that.
I would like to know, what is the root of atheism? I'm not, because again, I'm on the fence right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I come from a religious background. My father was born Catholic. He was introduced to Latter-day Saint Mormonism before I was born, and it was just really funny that the reason why he got involved was because the missionaries that were speaking to him.
Hey, we're getting a little off topic again.
Yeah, well, no, we're not, because this goes from fatherhood to parenting to where I am today. So we're not off topic, because parenting is everlasting until the end of time and mankind. And parenting is the most important thing for the future of mankind.
So I could say something about indoctrination, if that's okay.
This is her area of expertise.
Please do.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. There's actually a name for it that clinical psychologists use, and it's called exploitation. There are 4 forms of emotional abuse: spurning, isolating, terrorizing, and exploiting. I didn't fully understand what exploiting was because, I was thinking like child labor laws or what. I believe that religious exploiting of children is the most common form of emotional maltreatment. And if you think of it like someone is living their faith through a child, then you can see how this manifests itself over and over and over again. And oftentimes it's really hard for people to identify it unless they understand this particular form of emotional abuse. So indoctrination is an example of that, and it's a failure to address a child's individual development needs. So,
so right, and so indoctrination.
It's unhealthy.
Okay, so there's many forms of indoctrination, is what you're saying. Okay, so I want to get back to the topic of the indoctrination of children through the school system, where we are taught the history, and it may not, and we all know that history is written by the victors of wars and other things, right? So we don't really know if the history is correct now. So we're taking second-hand, third-hand, fourth, whatever-hand information from people that came well before our time, passing down maybe some truth, but maybe not.
Well, the thing is that we can confirm a lot of it.
No, but we can't. That's the problem. That's the problem. We can't confirm it all. We have a lot of information now in this time and age where the technology is there, where we can use our observational science, right? We can apply that to a man went up in an airplane, 33,000 feet, used infrared camera and zoomed out on the horizon where there was no curvature and you can see beyond 200 to 300 miles.
Yeah.
Now tell me where the curvature of the Earth is, and when you go look at J Space Tolan Space Media 1, go to his site on YouTube.
Yeah.
You will see for yourself that you can't see it. Okay, so indoctrination again is religious. It's political. It's political. It's public education. It's a whole slew of stuff, and I don't know where atheism comes
Charles, I feel like I'm being kind of railroaded here, so I'm going to let you go, and then we can talk about your thing right here. Okay, thank you. Cheese and crackers. All right, so let's talk about how religion infiltrates our education system, which really does happen, and it's why I got active in atheism and secular humanism and became a very active atheist, is because when I moved to Texas, suddenly it became very clear to me that education was being infiltrated by religion. The whole State Board of Education with John McElroy and all of their ways of being very insidious and using words very carefully to infuse the curriculum with creationism, intelligent design, erasing history that they didn't like, promoting an English curriculum that actually was supposed to encourage wholesome values or something like this. It was very, very religious. And being super involved in that is where I got my start. So I know about how religion can make its way into the education system and really mess things up.
Along with racism.
Yes, and racism. Oh, my gosh, yes. Well, that's kind of, they're best buddies.
They are best buddies.
Yeah.
Very often.
Right. So, yeah, and I'm thinking the Earth being flat, I'm pretty glad that's not in the curriculum, personally. I'm sorry. That's kind of snarky, but really, yeah. It's just, you don't know anything about science. I'm sorry.
Well, again, it's exploitation because you have, say, a school board who they personally believe whatever, and then instead of looking at the best interests of the children, they're wanting to voice their beliefs on this vulnerable population.
Yeah.
They do not have these children's developmental needs, making that first and foremost.
Right.
And all they have to do is just consult with child development experts.
Oh, my goodness.
And they would learn so much about what children actually need at various ages.
Right.
But,
education should be something that helps them learn how to learn. It's not having facts stuffed down their throats. And that means that you can hopefully, instead of being told that the Earth is flat, learn how science works, learn how to read things with a critical eye, and determine for yourself whether you think the Earth is flat or not, but not send people to a particular website where it's clearly very skewed, and also to have this preconceived notion that the Earth is flat. And I am just nauseated that we are going backwards like this. What the flippity-doo-dah day. Wow. What is going on? But we think the Earth is flat again. Young Earth, okay, that's really way off there. And flat Earth, oh my Lord. Mandisa, can you save me from rattling on and on about how, oh my gosh.
So I want to speak directly to the very obnoxious and rude gentleman who just called.
Thank you.
So I want to say that to an extent he's correct, that indoctrination isn't only it isn't only religiously based. However, where he is mistaken is this idea that the public education system or the school system is somehow a worse indoctrination system than church or religion. Certainly, there is information, just like science, like historical data is updated. We find out new information about historical events. But it isn't, first of all, there should be no parent or anyone that is totally relying on the on the education system to totally educate or raise their child. just like they shouldn't be totally relying on the church or religion
Amen.
to provide morals or values. Because, I mean, really, we shouldn't be relying on that at all. Because, like you said, the fact that there are religious people who, you know, will get involved with these school boards and try to put in what they want to put in or take out what they want to take out. And from the point is to get our children to the, you know, to where they need to be in order to be able to learn and learn further. And I still think that a lot of public education, a lot of public school systems get a bad rep. Because, yes, there are some that are extremely inadequate, and that's for a number of other institutional reasons. But when it comes to the basics of learning, a lot of them get it right.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of it that is actually pretty secular in nature that doesn't have anything to do with encouraging or enforcing children to just think a certain way. They are encouraging the method of critical thinking. You know, in my school, my children's schools, you know, you have to believe in yourself. You know, there's a lot of encouragement there. And so to imply that somehow the school system is worse than church is absolutely ridiculous.
Patently.
Because there's a basis of learning and there's a foundation and evidence there and verification.
Right.
In religion, there's nothing like that.
Right. Totally. Oh, my gosh.
I do want to push back on one thing that I feel the need to say, having researched specifically abuse and neglect in religious environments. There are many different ways to teach religion, and religious organizations don't always do it in an unhealthy way. I write very often about what makes religion harmful for children, and it's not across the board. The farther you get to the liberal spectrum of things, the less authoritarian the faith community is, or a school or a faith-based school is, the better, the more healthy the environment is going to be for children from a religious standpoint. If the child is attending, say, a conservative school or is homeschooled in a fundamentalist type or extremist environment, then serious problems can result. But what we're also seeing, I'm following a few court cases. One in particular has been decided by the Texas Supreme Court, which it concerns something called the ecclesiastical abstention doctrine, which very quickly is being interpreted in such a stretched and abused way that it has essentially allowed faith-based institutions to make whatever decisions they want for children. It's called internal affairs, and they get to make those decisions without court oversight because they are faith-based institutions. This has been now something that's been decided in at least 2 court cases I'm aware of. And so you have this carte blanche that's in the private religious school system. That's where they can take advantage of that. And in that sense, you have children in the public school system who are more protected from harm than they are in those schools.
Absolutely. Well,